Well, hello and welcome. It is a big day for India, and of course it's a great morning in the country. Everyone is waiting with bated breath to what could happen when it comes to the Chandrayaan's landing in the evening. And of course that is the discussion point everywhere, from cafes to offices as well as to tea shops everywhere across the country. There's only one thing that people want to know, and of course we are going to give you minute-to-minute coverage on it, and also a little bit of history about how this great mission has come to this level. And of course, when it comes to ISRO, there is nothing more than the kind of trouble they have in fact taken when it came to ensure that they would go ahead and carry on with some of the daring mission at a shoestring budget. And when we're talking about the Chandrayaan, well, when it compares to other world projects, it looks like ISRO might just be able to tell you that space exploration can be done effectively on an effective budget as well. It's more of science and less of glamour is what ISRO believes in, and of course that is the manner in which they have been carrying on with it. And interestingly enough, we have seen all the newspapers in fact in the morning going ahead and covering with this particular aspect. Now in Tribune, they have in fact taken up something interesting on their graphics as well. They're talking about how at 5:47 there will be the instruction given to this lander module, asking it to go ahead and carry on with the landing maneuvers. And what they call it is the 17 minutes of terror. Why is it called that? Because that takes the time from 5:47 p.m. to almost 6:04 p.m. for the lander module, with the kind of instructions and its onboard computing to go ahead and ensure that it identifies the right spot for the landing to take place. So this is how it is scheduled to be. At around 5:47 the lander begins descent for touchdown. Now 30 kilometers altitude, 1.68 kilometer per second is what we understand. Empowering the brake phase 4 thruster engines retrofire to reduce the velocity. Lander is placed horizontally. That is to say, this module in fact is going around the moon at a particular orbit, and as it nears the place where it wants to land, and after the computing is carried out, well, this is at the South Pole that we are looking at, it is said that the firing of it takes place to stabilize the lander in a manner, makes it horizontal so that it can land onto the surface of the moon, and it begins the descent simultaneously. Now at around 350 meters per second, that is around 6.8 kilometers altitude, in fine braking phase 2, engines shut. After to give reverse thrust for slower descent, landing gets into a diagonal position is what they say. So we find that the change in with regard to the lander takes place, and as it fires its engine, it tends to in fact ensure that it is able to slowly navigate itself in such a way that it's diagonal in position. And then at around 800 meters altitude, that is 800 meters from the surface of the moon, that altitude, in terminal descent phase of 2 engines bring velocity to a knot. That is to say that it no longer tends to go onto that orbit, and it says that the lander begins descent in a vertical position. Now 6:04 p.m. all goes well, and I've been saying from the time it has been launched, I keep my fingers crossed as well, lander makes the soft landing on moon's surface. Now that is the moment that we are all waiting to have, to ensure that India's presence is kept on the moon, making it probably the 4th nation to be able to send a probe or a lander onto the moon. We have already sent our Chandrayaan probes before, but this making sure that a rover lands and a lander in fact ensures that the kind of complexities it's involved, it lands onto the surface of the moon. So that is what we are probably looking at. But however, plan B is also in place. Mind you, this is happening just a few days from the crashing of the Russia's Luna 25 probe. So there is a caution level that is also there when it comes to the lander as such. And what they are saying is that there is a plan B as well. In case of a hiccup, landing will be delayed by 4 days to August 27th. Now the site will be almost 400 kilometers from the primary landing spot. So there is a plan B that has also been put in place by ISRO, that if they think it's not going to happen. Of course, they will be delaying the landing in case they are not able to in fact go ahead with that particular aspect of trying to get the parameters right. But that is again a plan B. We are not going to look at plan B right now. We are going to say that ISRO is going to land that lander onto the surface of the moon, making the country proud, and our scientists in fact being able to push a lot of science when it comes to the moon as such. Now, what we understand is that this is particularly going to happen at the South Pole. That is where Chandrayaan 3 will be attempting the soft landing on the lunar surface. India is probably at the cusp of scripting history with the country's third lunar probe, Chandrayaan 3, gearing up for a final phase of its 40-day space odyssey that is set to come to an end on Wednesday when the Vikram lander with Pragyan rover in its belly starts its descent to the moon. This is how the Tribune has in fact described it, and let me in fact show you some of the graphics that they try to in fact show the kind of descent that we are looking at. So when we are looking at this particular aspect of it, we can see how that this particular graphic in fact talks about all the phases that we are going to see from that period of 5:47 to 6:04 p.m. So this is how they have explained it. They have shown how the rover is at the present, and then how things in fact move in that particular direction, and then the landing that is going to be taking place. So shooting for the moon today, India's big ambition being unveiled when it comes to the moon. And you can see how this interesting graphics in fact shows how this possibility is going to be there. And of course, we all are going to keep our fingers crossed for that 17 minutes. A little bit of superstition though, but a lot of science at the same time. Meanwhile, I'm also looking at the Indian Express, which talks about something interesting as well. They are also speaking about how the Chandrayaan is slated for its descent from 5:47 p.m. to 6:04. It is a lot of energy and excitement at the place that we are looking at. Meanwhile, the moon mission on schedule, smooth sailing continues, says the space agency. Now, this is what the ISRO has been in fact trying to say when it comes to the kind of landing that we are looking at. And let us in fact take a look at this. A wave of anticipation has swept the country on the lander module of Chandrayaan 3, prepared to take a soft landing on the surface of the moon. Well, ISRO's date with the moon is in fact put out, and there is a lot of social media buzz as well on this aspect. So what we are probably looking at is this, that the ISRO in a social media post Tuesday said that Mission Operations Complex, or what they call as the MOX, has been buzzing with energy and excitement. The mission is on schedule. Now, this is what the entire excitement is there at the complex where ISRO is from its ground station trying to have communications with the Chandrayaan 3 lander there. And the Chandrayaan 3 lander is scheduled to make touchdown at 18:04 hours. ISRO's Telemetry Tracking and Command Center in Bengaluru will issue command at 17:47. That is the ground station from where the commands are going to go from. From Bengaluru, you will see the commands being given to the ISRO station. And from there, you will see that those commands are in fact moved to the rover and as well as to the lander, and from then onwards you would see the kind of command that we are looking at. So from that velocity, about 6,000 kilometers are in orbit, the spacecraft will have to slow down to near zero as it makes a touchdown. It's designed to land safely even at speeds of 10 kilometers an hour. That is the kind of science that we are looking at when it comes to the moon. Now, the descent will be completely autonomous, artificial intelligence and computer logic driven, with the mission control at ISRO keeping a close watch. The final approach will be a heady cocktail of anxiety, nervousness and anticipation. This is the drama that is being expected at that at ISRO, which is the telemetry center from where we are going to see the instructions to be given to Chandrayaan as such. So the final approach will be a heady cocktail of anxiety, nervousness and anticipation. Well, we have my colleague Pankaj in fact joining us with us right now. Pankaj, I was just going through the Hindustan Times, and I was actually interesting to see the kind of drama they are in fact trying to portray. When I say the drama, of course, it is actually a script for a film as well. I am quite taken up by that particular line over there, and that is what we are trying to, expect also during the evening. That is ISRO's telemetry tracking and command center from where in Bengaluru, from where the instructions will be given to the lander. So they have beautifully, in fact, put those moments now itself. They said that the final approach will be heady cocktail of anxiety, nervousness, and anticipation. It was in these last moments that Chandrayaan 2 developed problems and fell on the moon's surface. So 4 missions, including Luna 25 Russia 2 days ago, have met with similar fate in the last 4 years. But ISRO has added several layers of safeguard to ensure an incident like previous one does not recur. So they are prepared. They have a plan B as well. And of course, nail-biting times when it comes to looking at possibility of that landing.
Well, yes, absolutely, Varghese. Good morning to you and good morning to our viewers. So rather a wet Wednesday here in the capital, New Delhi. But obviously anticipation and anxiety all at a feverish pitch as Chandrayaan 3 plans and is headed towards its soft landing on the moon. Varghese, before we start with the technicalities here, obviously every newspaper here has the headlines based on Chandrayaan. We have Hindustan Times saying landing today. We have Navbharat Times saying Aaj dikhai rahe nazrein chand par. And obviously the Times of India also says Vikram all set for soft landing as India reaches for the moon today. Prag and Pragyan on brink of history. This, I believe, from my side, Varghese, it's 10 on 10 as far as the headlines for the Times of India goes. And needless to say, all the other publications too have given a priority to the much anticipated moon landing of Chandrayaan 3. And why not? Because it is something that is worth noting. It's not just historic, but also a lot of sentiments are attached to it. A lot of emotions are attached to it. And ISRO, from its humble beginnings, from the church, from a church, back in the 60s to now, to the edge of the moon, to the heights of the space. This is something which we have seen unfolding in front of our eyes. Unbelievable to many. Certain developed countries still, trying to figure how is it possible. The other day I was watching, I guess it was a meme or something, which said that the movie Interstellar was made at a costlier budget than what this whole moon mission is all about. So this is also something that India has managed. A lot of things are happening today, Varghese. If I may, take our viewers through the itinerary, what will happen. 23rd of August, obviously, going down in the history books, definitely. And this evening, the schools in Noida region, which is the national capital region of Delhi, the schools have been instructed to beam this moon landing live, and the students and teachers alike have been asked to participate, which is a very good gesture. I remember there were times when a comet like Hale-Bopp or some celestial phenomena would happen, and there back in the day the schools used to close for that, and there was anticipation kids won't go to school. But this is a very unique approach. Even if it's beyond the school hours, the students have been asked in the government-run schools and private schools in Uttar Pradesh, in Noida, that the students should come and be part of this historic landing. This inculcates a sense of curiosity. So that is one aspect. Curiosity is the key. Curiosity is the word which has taken India to this, a position where we are. Chandrayaan 3 sending pictures like these, which are showing on our screen, so close to the moon. This is one thing. Secondly, Prime Minister Modi is in Johannesburg, in the southern hemisphere, in totally different time zone. He would also be watching it with anxious breaths as the Chandrayaan 3 lands on the moon. And that particular moment also, it is expected he might, just address the ISRO community, the scientist community from there. So that is one aspect that is also we are looking at. And needless to say, Varghese, the run-up to this, launch and then anticipated separation, which happened successfully. of the lander from the rover, and now this just hours away from the soft landing on the dark side of the moon, obviously in search of water. That is one key aspect. And also, Varghese, if I may just take the liberty of time here, that we have seen an increased approach towards the global community into this extraterrestrial, celestial, approaches, be it the mission to Mars, be it the moon missions. We saw Russia's Luna 25 also making a headway towards moon. We have other smaller countries also taking giant leaps into the outer space with the help of developing or developed nations like India, for that matter, which is helping other countries place its satellite in the outer space area. So all these things obviously assume a lot of significance. And when this, I won't call it a space race, I will rather call it a tech innovative approach, which is placing countries adjacent to each other and also vying for that top developed position, which not just helps them to understand the nature better, but also predict at times the weather patterns, the availability of water, which helps, in turn in farming, also educates the kids. So that's why I would say it's very crucial that India not just celebrates, but also goes to the town, if all goes well, with the landing of Chandrayaan 3.
Well, of course, you have said there's a lot of excitement when it comes to the entire thing about Chandrayaan. But let us also, in fact, listen into what K. Sivan had to say on this. He had spoken about this mission, and he had helmed the last Chandrayaan 2 mission, and that had something to do with the manner in which, we saw how he was heartbroken, in fact, when the mission had failed. But then he is confident about this, and he's given a statement on it. Let's, in fact, take a look at that.
So definitely that because last time we could not achieve, because we till this phase we did very well last time also, but the landing portion only we could not achieve properly. So definitely that's what this time it's a very, very, very anxious moment. Everybody is working, looking it very anxiously for this event to happen. And I am sure that this time it will be a grand success. Not only now, that is, we have been telling from the beginning, it is a landing is a very, very complex process. So even now also we are telling that landing is a complex process. So, but nothing to do with the Russians' lander failure. But we have our own system, and we will be establishing a soft landing without any problem with our system. So, but it is a complex process.
Well, that is, in fact, we had K. Sivan, in fact, coming in and speaking about it, Pankaj, that it is a complex kind of a system that we are looking at. And, I have a headline also from the Hindustan Times that says that we even prepared backup plans for our backups, says ISRO chief. So that shows the level of anxiety that is there, and at the same time, excitement that is there. And at the same time, they are trying to ensure that it is, kind of failure proof, and they are able to get this mission on board. But then there are more reactions that are coming in. Let's listen into what some of those reactions from scientists as well as the people have on Chandrayaan.
We're about to land on 23rd of August. It's a very momentous occasion for India, and also a very big milestone in terms of space exploration. So the spacecraft is in the lunar orbit, and we hear from ISRO that that is being lowered down to the altitude from which it will be going to be landing. So the deboosting operations have been successful so far, and we look forward to the final operations of landing on 23rd evening. Today, the soft landing of Luna 25, the Russian mission, it took a different route to Moon, and we heard from the Roscosmos, the Russian space agency, that it ventured into the lunar orbit, but what we heard after that was that they lost contact with the spacecraft, and they are reporting that probably the spacecraft has crash landed on the moon.
Chandrayaan 2, compared to that, is almost, so many things have been done. In fact, I won't be able to explain every detail which Chairman ISRO himself has explained. About 80% changes are there. Weight itself is higher because they included quite a few things. Then they included redundancy in the engine, in the orbiter himself, so that one engine, suppose something happens, etc. Then what of the some of the anomalies which took, only couple of anomalies were there, but still they did not only just say, just solve it and go away. There are many other things you can always do better. It's always there in your mind, but they could not incorporate everything. So they incorporated many of those things into the Chandrayaan 3.
23 अगस्त न केवल इसरो के लिए बट पूरे हमारे देश के लिए बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण दिन है और होगा, क्योंकि इस दिन हमारा जो चंद्रयान 3 मिशन है वो अपने जो सॉफ्ट लैंडिंग मिशन उसका नाम दिया गया है, तो उसकी फाइनल जो अंतिम क्षणों में की ओर जा रहा है और लगभग शाम को 5:47 पे वो लैंड जो सॉफ्ट लैंडिंग का हम प्रयास करेंगे 30 किलोमीटर की हाइट से, 30 किलोमीटर की ऊंचाई से, और नीचे की ओर जाएंगे और मून की सतह पर सॉफ्ट लैंडिंग सफलतापूर्वक और सुरक्षापूर्वक कर पाएंगे, ऐसी हमारा पूरा विश्वास है, संपूर्ण हमको आशा है.
Yeah, if you compare Chandrayaan 3 versus Chandrayaan 2, Chandrayaan 2 is a follow-on for Chandrayaan 1, a logical extension from instead of remote sensing or the impactor to have a remote orbiter with for remote sensing and lander and rover for the soft landing of the mission is concerned. And towards that, I think reasonably well, the planning point of view up till getting an orbit point of view, it's reasonably well followed as it was done Chandrayaan 1. But the lander point of view, yes, I think lander also, we have how it should go and land on the designated place. Like that, things were put together. But now looking back, the landing site location itself, 500 meter or 500 meter. Now I'm looking back after the Chandrayaan 2 data, looks not adequate. So a wider area needs to be identified. I think that's how Chandrayaan 3 is concerned. A wider area of 4.5 kilometer by 2.5 kilometer wider area is there. In that, anywhere priority is safely land on the place. I think that is a priority also given like that. And similarly, legs also have been strengthened such that even if the impact velocity is more, you can load. And again, comparing the Chandrayaan 2, the required fuel also have been enhanced there.
Well, those are in fact ISRO's former ISRO scientists and scientists being excited about it, and also talking about kind of modification they have done to ensure that it does not happen what we tend to fear what happened to Chandrayaan 2. But I'm not going to be a person who's going to speak on the negativities of it. I'm just excited that we are there and we will be landing that rover on the moon and become one of the forefront spacefaring nations that are into it. Well, I just speak with my colleague as well, Pankaj. Pankaj, NASA as well as the European space agencies are also actually helping us. There is an interesting clip when it comes to the Hindustan Times. They've said that while Indians are rooting for the success of Chandrayaan 2, two international space agencies will be providing support to the Indian space body for uninterrupted communications between the ground stations and the lander module. US's NASA and European Space Agency ESA have earmarked stations that will provide tracking support to Chandrayaan 3. Now, we all know that when it came to the Chandrayaan as such, Pankaj, when the first mission was there, when water was in fact detected on the lunar surface, there was a NASA instrument also on that orbiter. So there have been collaborations, and now it looks like ISRO is one of those space agencies that the ESA as well as NASA wants to collaborate with. And there are other space agencies also who are looking for collaborations with us, Roscosmos of course being one of them, trying to have the kind of learning that each space agencies can give to each other, especially when it comes to technology. And also, there was one interesting clip that was in fact going yesterday. That is what's with Elon Musk, and how one person was asking Elon Musk as to how effective they have been when it came to launching space programs like ISRO did. And then he was saying that, you need to bring it much more below than what is at that cost as well. So ISROs is still costly is what Elon Musk is saying, but if you need to have a spacefaring kind of a population on Earth, you need to bring those costs down. But anyway, it looks like ISRO is on that world map, because Chandrayaan, Mangalyaan, and we have moved away from trying to be that domestic space agency that tend to in fact only put out satellites for various reasons, and we have moved beyond that. We are moving into an interplanetary exploration kind of a space agency. And interestingly enough, some of those instruments that have been used when it comes to Chandrayaan or when it was Mangalyaan itself, those instruments were actually meant for perfect science. So people were interested about how you manage your experimentation, how you use your instruments and the data that you collected. Because one big question that was asked by some of those senators is that how did India try to do it in a shoestring budget, a lot of science and very little of the kind of gadgetry that they were looking at, but they did get that data out in many respects as well. So how did India manage to do that, and their space agency was not doing it, probably hinting that NASA needs to cut down on its humongous budgets that it takes for its space exploration as well. But again, collaboration seems to be the way, because India has been able to put itself on that map of spacefaring nations.
Well, indeed, Varghese. See, I mean, as far as India or ISRO is concerned, its USP lies in the fact that it has managed, these missions, be it the Mars mission, be it the Chandrayaan missions, at a very limited budget. But that doesn't mean that there are budgetary constraints. That simply means that India's technical know-how has reached a point where it can and it is in a position to experiment and successfully implement its outer space plans, celestial plans. Now, how it happens? Obviously, we don't see Chandrayaans being launched or Gaganyaans being launched every year. It happens through successive and very continuous R&D, and also, which is very critical, is helping and actually becoming the launch pad for several other small nations to send their satellites into the space. This key aspect is generally not done by other countries. One, because of the strategic reasons, and secondly, because of the technical know-how, the technical capabilities. But the PSLVs, the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicles that we use generally to for the liftoff and sending the satellites into the space, smaller countries like Singapore, for that matter, several African countries, a few European countries too, we have seen time and again, and this happens round the year. I would say, if you take a closer look, you would see the average launches that ISRO does, if not for India, for others, is more than what a NASA does, is more than what a Roscosmos does. So that technical know-how is something that India keeps at it. India, is constantly in touch with this, and as far as the research and development is concerned, that is the top priority. Aeronautics is something that is regarded utmost, I would say, attention, and as far as the resource allocation is also concerned, we have seen no hinges in that. Talking about the communication part, you are right, Varghese, when we talk about several other agencies helping ISRO. One critical center, which is ISRO's telemetry tracking and command center, ISTRAC is what they call it. It's in Bangalore. Now, why is this center important? Because this is the place. It's not the launching station in Sriharikota, from where Chandrayaan had taken off, but it is actually the command center, ISTRAC, which will be giving the signal for the spacecraft to begin the descent at 17:47 hours, which is 5:47 p.m. this evening. And you know what? Our viewers would be surprised, as I was. As of now, as we speak, Chandrayaan's lander is traveling at a speed of 6,000 kilometers per hour. 6,000 kilometers per hour is what the speed is as of now. From 5:47 to 6:04 p.m., it has to decelerate and come down to roughly 10 kilometers per hour. That's when the landing will happen. And this is the zone which is very critical. Chandrayaan 2 at this point of time had not managed to land there safely. Yet the commendable work done still bearing fruits. And as we know that the connection has been done. So 5:47, the landing will start with the deceleration. 6:04 is the expected landing. Mission complex building in ISRO is buzzing with energy and excitement. That's what morning newspapers have for you. Varghese.
Well, I've before we in fact move on to the rest of the day's stories, I was just looking at how the Hindu has in fact put out a huge broadsheet of graphics. In fact, they've called it the 19 minutes of suspense, while some of them have called it as the 17 minutes of suspense. So in that you can see how they try to portray the landing that is there, and then finally at the end they show how after the landing you have the Pragyan rover rolling out. And interestingly enough, at the end they just say one of the risks that have to be looked into, and also a perfect timing that they require there. What they say over there is that because the lander and the rover are charged by solar panels, the time at which they land should coincide with the sunrise at the location on the moon. So it's not about just trying to land over here, Pankaj. It's also about coinciding with the sunrise on the moon, especially on that location. So that is the kind of the management and the kind of cohesion, as well as the manner in which they have to in fact ensure that all the factors are put together, the coordination required to ensure that this is the manner in which they are able to get the lander rightly at that spot where the sun rises and the solar panels are able to charge. So a lot of coordination to be carried out with this, but again a full broadsheet kind of graphics that has been put in place. Those who are interested, I would be saving this in fact for sure, because this is going to be quite historic. So I would like to save this graphics from the Hindu on for my personal use as well. But again, when we move out from Chandrayaan, Pankaj, we are talking about the Prime Minister at BRICS, and at BRICS the Prime Minister did make a lot of important statements as well. Now in BRICS, when the Prime Minister was speaking about, he actually sold the fact that India is on the verge of becoming a 5 trillion economy, and that when it comes to India, it is important to in fact look at how the opportunities can be leveraged, and at the same time India is giving impetus to BRICS as the voice of the global South. So the Prime Minister is in South Africa, and he's going to in fact also keep an eye on what is happening when it comes to Chandrayaan. But BRICS is a platform for global South is what he says, and he also said that resilient supply chains for world economy must be created at any cost. And let me in fact read out some of the aspects that have come in from the BRICS summit as such. The BRICS grouping has become a platform for discussing the challenges facing the global South. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that before leaving for South Africa, where he is expected to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping for the first time since their brief encounter in G20 Bali summit, the Prime Minister in fact saying that resilient supply chains should be in place, and that when it comes to global South, BRICS could be that platform for it. This time BRICS has also invitee countries that would be participating in it, probably looking at an expansion of this particular grouping of emerging economies. BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, as well as South Africa, the next series of economies that have played a vital role in the world. And the Prime Minister, of course, at South Africa for this, the Prime Minister also is being welcomed at Johannesburg for the meeting as well, and therefore it is a packed day for the Prime Minister when it comes to the BRICS meeting as well. So let me in fact go to Pankaj. Pankaj, BRICS meet, we've been all hearing about how BRICS is actually a family which is not at ease with each other, especially India and China on one side, Russia finding it difficult, South Africa put into a difficult position, Brazil, there has been a change when it comes to its government, and therefore the kind of policies that is trying to put out is trying to concentrate more on its Latin American front. But nevertheless, all of them are there together, and now also looking at expansion plans. And there you have Prime Minister Modi in fact coming there and telling that India is on the verge of becoming a 5 trillion economy. India's growth opportunities should be leveraged as such, and at the same time speaking about resilient supply chains, because we have seen how the COVID disruption had technically put spotlight on the supply chain disruption across the world. So probably hinting that there should be multiple points of supply chains, resilient ones that would act in case there is a global emergency like a COVID or anything else. So interestingly enough, a lot of statements coming in from the Prime Minister on this. What is your take about the Prime Minister's reach in BRICS? And of course, there is this political aspect with China that we'll discuss later.
वैश्विक अर्थव्यवस्था में उथल-पुथल के बावजूद भारत आज विश्व की फास्टेस्ट ग्रोइंग मेजर इकोनॉमी है। जल्द ही भारत $5 ट्रिलियन इकोनॉमी बन जाएगा। इस बात में कोई संदेह नहीं कि आने वाले वर्षों में भारत विश्व का ग्रोथ इंजन होगा। ये इसलिए है क्योंकि भारत ने आपदा और मुश्किलों के समय को आर्थिक सुधार के अवसर में परिवर्तित किया। पिछले कुछ वर्षों में हमने मिशन मोड में जो रिफॉर्म्स किए हैं, उनसे भारत में ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस में लगातार बढ़ोतरी हुई है। हमने कंप्लायंस बर्डन को कम किया है, रेड टेप को हटाकर रेड कारपेट बिछा रहे हैं। जीएसटी और इंसॉल्वेंसी एंड बैंक्रप्सी कोड के लागू होने से इन्वेस्टर कॉन्फिडेंस बढ़ा है। रक्षा और अंतरिक्ष जैसे क्षेत्र जिनको प्रतिबंधित माना जाता था, आज प्राइवेट सेक्टर के लिए खोल दिए गए।
Well, that was the Prime Minister, in fact, speaking about the various aspects of how we will look into the G20 as well, and also on BRICS as well, and also trying to, in fact, lay down the entire issue about India's economy and resilience required in world economies as well. Well, Pankaj, you heard what the Prime Minister had to say at the BRICS summit. Of course, it looks like BRICS becoming the voice of the global south, economic powerhouse. You know, there is an attempt, when we look at the BRICS nations, to build institutions away from established European US centers or the transatlantic economic centers. It looks like all world institutions tend to fall inside the transatlantic economy and their influence, and here is an attempt to actually break away from that influence. How do you see this?
Well, yes, Varghese, as far as India's stand is concerned, India's role is concerned at BRICS, then certainly it's at a vantage point that the BRICS gathering places India at. But as far as the synergy, the coherence within the member countries is concerned, then they are actually poles apart, and a lot is being left for imagination. A lot is being left for yearly meetings like this. So when they come back to the drawing board once again and reach out and reshape the future course of action, unlike a gathering like G20 for that matter, or smaller gatherings of the nation, BRICS time and again reminds us that yes, the value is very much there, but as far as the global balancing order is concerned, a balanced global order is concerned, that is something that cannot be achieved, with meeting of a couple of days. For that, obviously, the synergy, the role and the significance of this body has to have, projected even more. Now, as far as BRICS is concerned, the talks of expansion are also going on, and there are fears that are being put that China would want to bring in certain members, obviously, to increase its clout and coterie, which in turn could actually undermine or shadow the role of India. And as we know that India's relations with the West as of now are at their best, And in this scenario, obviously, India wouldn't want, China to actually have a bigger say rather, or be dominating the proceedings. So because in that scenario, obviously, it would pit, India and China against each other as far as the BRICS is concerned. But one key aspect is there. Secondly, India would also not want to be a stumbling block as far as the expansion is concerned, as far as the bringing in of several other members is concerned, because that, in a way, in a sense, takes or puts India at a different position altogether. So it's a precarious situation as of now, but I'm sure when it comes to interpersonal meetings like this, a lot of things are being ironed out. And as far as BRICS is concerned, I think more than the understanding part, more than the geopolitics of it, I guess a common trade, common travel restrictions should be removed. That if that could be achieved within the BRICS nation, that would be really the first step towards taking and making BRICS a bigger conglomerate of the nations.
Well, of course, I in fact get that part of it, because when you're talking about travel restrictions, that has been one of the aspects that they have been looking at. But then again, each country having their own issues with it as well. But then the Diaspora, Pankaj, has in fact been giving out positive reviews. Diaspora being the strength of our country as well. Wherever they go, they have had success stories. They have built a life and community for themselves, and they have impressed upon their host nations as well as their adopted countries with their achievements. In fact, let's listen to how the Diaspora reacted when the Prime Minister was in South Africa.
Hello, we are very privileged and delighted to know that Mr. Modi ji is going to be here in South Africa and is going to be attending the BRICS summit. India is a superpower. Jai Hind, and good luck.
I'm very super excited to meet Mr. Modi ji. We are so privileged. We got a chance.
Welcome Modi ji to South Africa again. See you. We are waiting for you anxiously.
So happy to be here to see our Prime Minister, meet him over here. Truly privileged. Thank you.
It is an honor indeed to be in the presence of the Prime Minister. He's a wonderful man and my hero. Thank you.
I'd like to congratulate our Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, for coming to South Africa. We are all happy to see him, and I hope we will carry on further relation with them. Thank you very much.
Looking forward, Mr. Modi, and he's a great honor to be, he's in the country, and again Modi ji make India as a Sone ki chidiya, and it's great proud of us to be honoring him here.
We are very excited to see Prime Minister Modi ji. Jai Hind.
I'm feeling very proud that the Prime Minister is coming to our country.
आप लाखों करोड़ों लोगों के आदर्श हैं. हम आपका स्वागत करते हैं.
We are proud that he is taking India to new heights. So we like to welcome him here. Thank you.
Hello, Namaste India, and we welcome Mr. Modi here. And Jai Hind India, Jai Bharat, Jai Modi. Pranam to sabhi all.
We are really looking forward to meet the Prime Minister of India here, and we are very, very happy with his visit today. And we hope that both the nations can flourish.
We welcome the Prime Minister, Mr. Modi. We're very happy he's coming to South Africa, and may they flourish, South Africa and India together.
Well, in fact, moving away from one big meet and another big meet coming in G20 form in New Delhi. Pankaj, there's the story. Offices, schools in Delhi to remain closed from September 8th to 10th for G20 Leaders Summit. All schools as well as private and Delhi government offices will remain shut in the city from September 8th to 10th in view of G20 Leaders Summit. Banks and commercial establishments, including markets in the New Delhi district, will also remain closed for these 3 days. Delhi police had sent a proposal to the city government urging it to declare holidays from September 8th to 10th. The Delhi government approved the proposal on Tuesday. So the G20 will see the gathering of world's largest economies and the leaders from there. It is scheduled to be held on September 9th and 10th at Bharat Mandapam in Pragati Maidan. It is likely to be attended by 29 heads of states and thousands of delegates from a host of countries such as United States, Canada, Germany, China will be flocking to the country for that summit. So a huge summit, in fact, expected with regards to G20, and of course the holiday is being declared for that period as well. G20 just after BRICS, well, that is the main focus, isn't it? Where we would say that India has arrived on that exclusive club of world leaders where India was always being invited, but now India being the host themselves?
Well, yes, Varghese, obviously, it's a red letter event, I would say, and the event in itself, which has spanned across the length and breadth of the country, has seen several delegates coming here and sharing the common days with the member nations. As far as India's role is concerned, well, definitely it gives immense boost, not just to its hosting capacities, but also to the role and significance it has achieved over the years in the international community. And now with the overnight development of President Joe Biden also expressing and news coming in that he might be traveling to India to attend the G20 summit from September 7th to 10th is something that also cements and the bond between India and the United States. Obviously, for the heads of state to travel down to India means a lot. And secondly, the significance that India adds to this presidency of G20 is something which is unprecedented. And there is a lot of, if you may ask, the international significance, and then there is a domestic significance as well, because Prime Minister Modi had charted out a plan which said that we should not be centering these events only to a few cities, rather it should be, an opportunity for other cities also to flourish and also to showcase the world the capacity, the beauty that it brings as far as India's diversity is concerned. So that's one aspect to it. Secondly, for the global community, I'm sure being the host, being the president of G20, India has checked all the boxes and has come up with flying colors. Now it's just the final part in the month of September, where we would see several dignitaries coming down to India to participate. And the role that G20 plays, obviously, as Sherpa, India's Sherpa Amitabh Kant, while speaking to Newsline's Neha Khanna, said that G20 is far more relevant than United Nations Security Council. That is a very significant statement, and India's presence there in G20 obviously adds a lot of value to it.
Well, also, Pankaj, now let's in fact move from G20. We are talking about Manipur. In Manipur, one of the biggest stories that has come in the Manipur Assembly to convene on August 29th. Manipur Governor Anasuya Uke on Tuesday summoned the monsoon session of 60-member Assembly on August 29th, following a recommendation of the state cabinet officials said. Now, quoting the governor's order, Assembly Secretary K. Meghajit Singh said a notification that the fourth session of the 12th Manipur Legislative Assembly would meet on the day. Now, there was a lot of speculation as to whether this meeting would happen or not. We did see the Kuki MLAs threatening to boycott it, and at the same time, a resolution is being forced to be passed in that assembly over the integration of Manipur's territorial regions, and at the same time on the territorial integrity and preserving it when it comes to Manipur. But finally, there is some kind of move on the legislators' part to come together and also take part in the assembly meeting that is there. But yesterday, Pankaj, interestingly enough, one of the issues that was raised is that the governor hadn't given the assent for the meeting to happen, and that's why the session did not take place. There was a lot of speculations regarding it. Some of them saying that, and I think that the issue was mostly about technicalities, trying to hide behind the technicalities, saying that the governor didn't give the assent because you had a clear bunch of MLAs saying that they are not going to attend it, and at the same time another bunch of MLAs saying that they want to push a certain resolution which is not going to be favored by those who are trying to boycott the session. So this has been going on, and probably anticipating this, the government was not in a position to in fact go ahead and get that cabinet the decision to in fact get that session in place. But finally, it looks like some kind of a talking point happening, and on August 29th, the fourth session is going to be convened. Well, of course, there's a boycott call also on one side. So this is happening at a very tense situation. Right time for the session to take place?
Well, I would say, Varghese, it's somewhere the beginning has to be done. Somewhere the first step has to be taken. And given the scenario as of now in the state, there unfortunately wouldn't be any time which would be the right time. But yes, if The democratic proceedings have to go on. If the chosen representatives have to do their duty and be answerable and accountable to the people in general, then the assembly session must be convened. And as the morning newspapers are also suggesting that the session would be convening from August 29 for its first session since the start of violence that has seen such dynamic proportions, what we have been witnessing for the last 2.5 months now. In an order dated August 21st, Governor Anusuya summoned the assembly following the state cabinet's second recommendation that came after meeting on Monday. And Kuki Zomi MLAs have said that at present it seems unlikely they will travel to Methi-dominated Imphal to attend this session. So you can see the fault lines as of now, as Indian Express is reporting, are still very much there. But as I mentioned, the steps have to be taken. The beginning has to be made so that the little bit of headway into confidence building measures is something that has to be done, because there is another aspect which is playing out is obviously the division of Kukis and Methi and how it is impacting the security forces there with the removal of Assam Rifles, entry of another paramilitary there to take care of the situation. All these aspects are very crucial as of now, and to bring semblance to it, obviously the people's representatives have to get together to brainstorm and find a solution.
Well, also that is going to be quite crucial. Let's see, in fact, whether they will be able to come together when regarding this. But then there has been a daring rescue that happened just across the border. That is in Pakistan, where children who were using a cable car, 6 of them were in fact trapped in that cable car when they were trying to move across a deep valley, and they were actually moving towards their school zone. That is when the cable car caught in the middle of the air, and there was a lot of anxiety from the local residents. They used the loudspeakers at religious places to in fact shout out saying that there is an issue like this and to alert the local officials. And in this daring rescue, we see that all of them have been rescued right now. Those are the visuals of that cable car in fact dangling there. You can see how the military helicopter was hovering just at it, and they were able to rescue the children who are stuck over there. Precarious situation that was witnessed by the people of that region as well. And this particular incident happened at Battagram in Pakistan, and 6 children among 8 people were in fact trapped inside the cable car dangling over the deep Pakistan valley. The chairlift, which is stuck at a height about 900 feet, 275 meters, due to breakage in one of its cables. So it was a technical error that in fact led to this, but daring rescue being attempted and all of them being rescued. 8 of them who were stuck in it were rescued, 6 of them being children. From these visuals you can see how daring an attempt it has been to rescue all of them over there, and all resources in fact being used to rescue the people who are stuck inside that chair car along with the children. You saw the dramatic visuals that are there from coming in from Pakistan. Well, it was what we call as hanging by a thread, wasn't it, Pankaj?
Well, definitely, Varghese. These visuals, obviously, we don't see such events unfolding on a regular basis, and thankfully, all 8 passengers have been saved. Interestingly, Varghese, these makeshift cable cars are widely used in these mountainous regions, in these ravines, and the children in the car were actually going to the school when the cable snapped, and that was the time, roughly 14 hours of excruciating ordeal that these students had to go to. Thankfully, all 8 people have been rescued as of now, and some of the group were rescued by helicopter. We saw choppers hovering on the cable car after the nightfall. Yeah, because initially it was very difficult to establish physical contact with them. There was a risk that if the last cable also snaps, then what happens? And a sea of villagers were standing beneath, watching with gazing eyes there. So it was some drama that unfolded, suspense that unfolded in Pakistan, and some were actually brought down through a zip line. The visuals showed how the kids were ferried through a zip line from the top to bottom, and the country's acting Prime Minister also has voiced his relief, saying that the selflessness and determination of the rescuers has actually saved these lives. So the cable car was left dangling in air for more than 14 hours, and the rescue teams were battling the conditions to reach the stranded group. Obviously, all's well that ends well, and thankfully, all of the occupants of the cable car they receive being brought down by a zip line. Quite a technique there used. Thankfully, at the end, Varghese, I would say, all lives have been saved.
Well, in fact, that was some kind of a daring rescue. But there is something again on India's front that everybody is excited to, in fact, find out what the results of that would be. And that is about Praggnanandhaa holds his own against world number 1 Carlsen. First game ends in a draw. Now, that is what we understand. Indian Grandmaster R. Praggnanandhaa held his own against the world number 1 Magnus Carlsen in the opening game of the FIDE World Cup chess, as he secured a draw in the first classical game in the final in Baku, Azerbaijan on Tuesday. The evenly matched game ended after 35 moves as both players agreed to draw. Carlsen will have an advantage of playing with the white pieces in the second game on Wednesday. Praggnanandhaa ran into a time trouble midway through his game as 90 minutes were given as per the rule for 40 moves. So, Pankaj, I think this is the story that we have to in fact take a look at, and the last of it as well. When we see Chandrayaan, of course, one excitement, but the other excitement which we shouldn't forget is probably for that coveted title. We all are cheers for Praggnanandhaa.
Well, definitely, as I mentioned, the Times of India too has the same headlines here that both Prag and Pragyan on brink of history. And obviously, this little master Prag draws first game against Carlsen, will win chess World Cup if he trumps today. So this is again a remarkable day as far as India is concerned. And trust me, when it comes to the game of chess, what Vishwanathan Anand has set the track record for. I mean, as kids, we used to watch him, hear him, and now here is a kid. But by no means, as far as his chess acumen and caliber is concerned, he is challenging the best in the world. And yes, why not? I mean, time and again, India has proven with its skills in this particular game. And all the best, Prag, to you and to your family. And needless to say, whether a win or not, but the repute, the name that you have brought to the nation, I think we are not going to forget it for any time soon, for a long, long time, I would say.
Well, thank you, Pankaj, for in fact joining us. That's all the time that we have when it comes to today's Page One. And of course, the two big stories of the day, I think we will keep a track on is Prag as well as Pragyan, the rover, and the landing part about Chandrayaan. Rolling coverage going on News 9, and we also give you the history as well as the political history about how ISRO has managed so far when it came to making India one of the topmost spacefaring nations in the world. With that, it's a wrap on me. On the other side, stay tuned for more programs on News 9.
China won't let us rest easy on our borders, but they will keep flooding our markets. What does Xi Jinping really want?
I think he wants the Indian market, no doubt about it. It's really a matter of showing their dominance.
India's great Chinese conundrum.